What hurts you isn't your enemy. It's the burden of carrying that hatred for the rest of your life. So, are you ready to forgive your enemy? I didn't make this video to tell you whether you should or shouldn't forgive, because forgiveness isn't advice, it's a journey. And that journey is one no one can force you to take. But if you stay until the end of this video, maybe, just maybe, you'll find your own way out. This story is shared from personal experience, not to teach, but to connect. Because sometimes forgiveness isn't for the other person. It's a gift you leave behind for yourself. The Enemy on My Back, a story from Asian Buddhism. In a small village near the border of two former warring kingdoms lived an old man named Ananda who carried firewood for a living. Villagers often whispered that he had once been a renowned swordsman, but after a bloody battle, he had vanished from the world of blades. He chose a life of solitude among the bamboo forests, quiet as a shadow. One day, a young monk from the mountain temple came down and, driven by curiosity, approached the old man. "Sir, the villagers say you once had a sworn enemy. Is that true?" The old man nodded silently. "Then, have you forgiven that man?" Ananda smiled faintly. His eyes held no anger, only a deep, quiet sorrow. He spoke. "Back then, I carried his name inside me like a heavy stone on my back. I believed that if I ever put it down, I would forget what he had done. But in the end, I realized carrying that stone for so long only made me forget where I was going." The monk stood silent for a moment before asking, "Then how did you finally let go of that stone?" The old man answered, "I didn't forget him. I simply stopped carrying him. I left him where he belonged, in the past. And I chose to keep walking." Forgiveness isn't to set them free. It's so you're no longer held captive. We often think of forgiveness as a gift, a noble gesture offered to someone who's hurt us. But for those who've been betrayed, humiliated, abandoned, or deceived, forgiveness can feel like a trap. Does it mean letting them escape the consequences? Ignoring pain they never apologized for? Pretending nothing ever happened? No, forgiveness is not something you do for them. It's something you do for yourself. It's not about absolving the enemy. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional chains they left behind. Asian Buddhism. People aren't taught to forget or make peace with those who cause them harm. What the Buddha once told a murderer, and what we still need to hear today, was this: holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Pain doesn't live in the past. Pain lives in how we carry the past inside us every day. When you haven't forgiven, you're not living in the present. You're living in a memory. You're not speaking to the person in front of you. You're speaking to your wound. And the one who hurt you might be long gone, but they're still present in every decision you make, in every restless night, in every moment your heart shuts out someone innocent. Forgiveness doesn't make them worthy. It just means you no longer have to suffer because of them. You don't need to say it out loud. You don't need to open your heart again or rebuild a relationship. Forgiveness is not about pardoning them. It's about releasing yourself. And on that journey, you can begin with a single honest question. How long have I been holding this? And how much longer do I want to? The enemy is long gone, but inside, we still live as if they never left. There's something strange about pain. It doesn't need the other person to stick around in order to survive. Your enemy may have disappeared from your life years ago. No messages, no voice, no contact. And yet, in your mind, they still show up like you see them every day. They live in how you flinch when someone's too kind. They echo in the way you push away the love you deserve. They speak through your silence, your mistrust, your fear. Why? Because you never put them down. In the story, The Enemy on My Back, the old man Ananda said, "I couldn't forget him, but I stopped carrying him." A simple line, but it lingers. He didn't pretend he wasn't hurt. He just refused to let that hurt ride on his shoulders for the rest of his life. Buddhism calls this letting go, not erasing the pain, but no longer clinging to it as if it defines you. Because sometimes suffering gives us a strange sense of identity. It makes us feel alert, justified in our defenses. But living that way means living in someone else's shadow, not your own light. And that's when the question becomes, are they still holding you captive? Or are you the one refusing to unlock the door? If you keep replaying what they did, if their eyes still live in your reactions, if your fear still bends to their ghost, then you're the one dragging them along, even if they vanish from your world. Don't let someone who's no longer here keep deciding who you are. You deserve more than that. Forgiveness isn't because they deserve it. It's because you no longer want to live trapped in an old story. There's one thing the person who hurt you can never do. They can't heal you, not with an apology, not by making amends, not even through their most sincere actions. Because healing has never been in their hands. It's always been in yours. If you're waiting for them to come back, to admit fault, to say, I'm sorry, or to somehow make things right, so you can feel justice, you might be waiting forever. And during that forever, you'll be locked behind a door that only you have the key to. In Buddhist teachings, karma is described as a chain of unbroken reactions. Someone strikes you, you hold on to hatred, and then you pass that bitterness to someone else. And so the chain continues, hurt birthing more hurt. No one stops. Everyone keeps bleeding into each other because no one ever healed. The way to stop that cycle isn't to strike back, it's to forgive. Not because they are worthy, but because you no longer want to live as a replica of your pain. In the story of Ananda, once a warrior, his retreat into the forest wasn't escape. It was a return, a way to reclaim the humanity that war had taken from him. Forgiveness didn't erase his past, but ended the past's power over his present. Picture this. You're carrying a heavy sack of stones. They throw a cruel word. You pick it up. The next day, a betrayal. You add it to the bag. And over time, you're too burdened to move. But they've long since walked away. So the real question is, are you ready to keep walking without carrying them anymore? Not for them, but because your hands need to be free, to hold on to something far more worthy. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's remembering in a different way. Many people fear forgiveness because they think it means letting things go, pretending it didn't hurt, or acting like it never happened. But that's a misunderstanding. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. No one is asking you to erase your memory or pretend you didn't feel pain. In fact, it's because you remember that you know how far you've come. Buddhism doesn't teach us to forget suffering. It teaches us to transform it. Like rainwater collecting on the roof. Leave it there and it will rot the wood. But redirect it into the garden and it will water the flowers. Memory works the same way. If you hold inside you like an open wound, it turns into fear, insomnia, doubt, and a closed heart. But if you allow it to pass through a heart that's ready to heal, it becomes wisdom. You're no longer controlled by it. You see it like an old friend. Not pleasant, but worth remembering. Ananda's story is the clearest proof of this. He never forgot the one who betrayed him, but he chose not to live by that betrayal anymore. Instead of carrying hatred, he carried the lesson. Sometimes, the one who hurt you is just a lost soul, much like you once were. When you forgive, you don't erase the memory. You rewrite how you remember it. It's no longer just a story about what broke you. It becomes a journey through darkness that helps you find your own light. You don't forgive to forget. You forgive so you can remember without trembling. And that kind of freedom, no one can ever take it from you. Letting go doesn't mean the past was light. It means the future is worth it. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of holding on to resentment is how quietly it steals your future. Not with noise, but in silence, little by little. You stop trusting. You stop opening up. You stop dreaming of something better. Because there's a whisper in your mind. They'll betray you too. But if you keep living like that, you're punishing yourself for what someone else did. Forgiveness isn't about pretending the past didn't weigh you down. Many people have been crushed, humiliated, pushed to the edge. They have every right not to forgive. They have every reason to carry that pain like a scar, like a witness to what they've endured. But if you're searching for a life that feels whole again, you must make a choice. Hold on to the image of the one who hurt you, or make room for someone who might bring you something new. Buddhism speaks of non-attachment, not because life is meaningless, but because only when you let go can your hands grasp something new. When Ananda set down the stone, he didn't know where the road would lead. He only knew this. He couldn't keep walking if he carried his enemy on his back. And sometimes that's the bravest act, not forgiving them, but choosing to return to life for yourself. So no, forgiveness isn't weakness. It's the belief that your future deserves more than the pain you've been holding on to. Every time I say I'm fine, I'm holding myself together so I don't fall apart. I don't know about you, but for me, forgiveness once felt distant. Not because I didn't understand its value, but because I couldn't understand why I had to be the one to untangle the knot, when I was the one left behind, the one hurt, the one misunderstood. For a long time, I'd still wake up each morning thinking about that person, not because I still loved them, but because something inside me felt unfinished. A part of me was still waiting, not for a reunion, but for them to admit they were wrong, to say that what I felt was real, to tell me I wasn't crazy. Do you know that feeling? When someone hurts you, then walks away like nothing ever happened, and you're the one left behind, staring at the shattered pieces. There were moments I wished I could hate them enough to cut the cord, to turn it off, but I didn't hate them. I just didn't know what to do with all the pain. One day, during a casual conversation with a Buddhist monk, I shared my story, not for advice, just to let it out. He listened quietly, and then asked me one gentle question. Where are you holding them inside yourself? I didn't understand. He smiled and said, they've left your life, but inside your heart, they're still there. Every time you get angry, you bring them back to life. Every time you speak of them, you resurrect them again. Aren't you tired? I couldn't answer, but inside, I knew he was right. Every time I said, I'm fine, I was holding myself together, so I wouldn't break. And that's when I began to realize, forgiveness isn't about giving them another chance. It's about giving yourself somewhere to rest. No need to reconcile. No need to erase the memory. Just stop for a moment so you don't have to be exhausted anymore. One day, I realized I just didn't want to carry them in my mind anymore. I used to think that forgiveness had to be spoken, that you had to meet face to face, that you had to say, I forgive you, clearly, properly, like they do in the movies. But real life isn't like the movies. Some people you never see again. Some things they did wrong, and they'll never even know it. Some apologies never arrive. And then I understood, forgiveness doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need a confirmation. Forgiveness is a quiet decision that happens inside you on an unnoticed afternoon, in a moment when your heart simply wants to breathe a little easier. I remember that day clearly. There was nothing special about it. I was just sitting in a park, watching a few leaves fall, and suddenly I realized I'd already come such a long way, so far, in fact, that if I kept dragging their shadow with me, I wouldn't have room for anything beautiful. I didn't say, I forgive you. I just whispered to myself, I don't want to hold space for them in my mind anymore. And that's when I began to understand. Forgiveness isn't about reopening a door and letting someone back in. Forgiveness is about closing a door inside your heart, so no one else can keep walking through and hurting you again. I can't change the past, but I can stop letting it decide who I'll become. I didn't forgive because they deserved it. I forgave because I deserved the peace they could never give me. And from that day forward, I slept a little better, breathed a little lighter, not because of anything they did, but because I chose to step away from a battle, that I was the only one still fighting. Maybe, after this entire video, I still can't give you a clear answer to the question, should you forgive the one who hurt you? Because I don't know what you've been through. I haven't lived in your skin. I haven't heard the sound of your heart breaking in the quiet of the night. I don't know the look in someone's eyes that made you shrink into silence. And because of that, I have no right to tell you to let go. All I can say is this. I know what it's like to carry someone in your heart for so long that you forget what exactly is weighing you down. Is it them? Is it you? Or is it the shadow of both? And I've learned something, not from books, but from sleepless nights, and from the moments I thought I'd moved on, only to realize I still hadn't. It's this: when you're tired enough, you'll know what to do. No one needs to rush you into forgiveness, and no one can forbid you from holding on to your pain. But when your heart wants peace more than it wants to be right, then maybe forgiveness will be the road you take. Forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it can change how you move forward from today. And that's why it doesn't need to happen in front of anyone, only in front of yourself. There are people who hurt you and will never know that they did. There are apologies that will never come. There are endings that will never be complete. But that doesn't mean you have to stay stuck in the middle of an unfinished story. Because sometimes you're the one who gets to write the final chapter, by the way you live, by the way you lighten your load, and by the way you let go. So the question remains, should you forgive the one who hurt you? I don't have the answer, but maybe your heart does. And if you listen closely, on a day when nothing else is speaking, the answer might rise quietly, without force, and simply feel true. If you're still here, thank you. Truly, thank you for staying until the very last moment. I don't know what you're carrying in your heart right now, but if any part of this video spoke to you, please feel free to leave a comment below. Share your story with me, or simply share what's on your mind. Maybe someone will read it and realize they're not alone. Maybe you, through a few honest words, will become a light for someone else. And if you found value in this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next healing story. Every interaction from you, every click, every comment, is the reason I keep telling these real stories about people, about pain, and about how we keep walking, even when it still hurts. Once again, thank you for being here. I wish you a heart strong enough to love and gentle enough to forgive.